welcome to the Source One podcast. Consider us your source for the latest procurement, supply management, and strategic sourcing insights, anytime, anywhere. The Institute for Supply Management's annual conference is fast approaching. On May 6th, thousands of industry professionals will gather in Nashville, Tennessee to network, exchange best practices, and discuss emerging trends. Here at Source One, we're getting ready for the year's premier supply management conference with our new series, ISM2018 Session Insights. Tune in every week to hear our experts discuss the topics that promise to dominate the conversation at this year's conference.
This week, we're joined by Source One Senior Consultant Megan Connell to discuss strategies for bridging the gap between marketing and procurement departments. Historically, marketing and procurement aren't known for working in tandem. Many companies still consider the unique spend category off limits to their procurement teams. In her time with Source One, Megan has excelled in promoting collaboration between these former adversaries. Her efforts have helped a number of organizations reassess procurement and reconfigure their approach to marketing spend. Meg, before we get started, could you tell us a little about yourself and your role at Source One?
Thanks, Joan. As you mentioned, my name is Megan Connell. I'm a senior consultant here at Source One. I work specifically in the marketing procurement department here, working with our clients to help them identify different marketing agencies and suppliers that can help them to deploy their different campaigns. Beyond that, I also help with some supply chain projects as well as our procurement transformation service offering.
Great. Thanks, Meg. Let's start with the basics. When a company comes to Source One for help with marketing spend, what specifically are they hoping we can provide?
There's a lot of different ways that clients come to us looking for marketing support. Sometimes it's the marketing department themselves or someone who works on behalf of the marketing team that comes to us specifically looking for support in a certain area. They may be looking for help in running an agency search or to review one of their brands, looking for benchmark data in different categories, or potentially looking for ways to extend their budgets further. And then in some cases, marketing may just be grouped in with some other spend categories that our team's supporting, and that's how we get that introduction.
Have companies been surprised to learn that we can help them in this category?
I'm not necessarily surprised, so I would say that it's more about our breadth of experience in marketing and our ability to impact the more strategic categories like agency services.
So you mentioned extending budgets. Could you describe what the spend profile of your typical marketing department looks like?
There's no standard profile for a marketing department's budget. Each company's marketing budget will look different depending on their industry, the target audience, their product profile, and the different tactics that they use to deploy their campaigns. There are certain similarities or trends we can see within the different industries, but the priorities of the different strategies and tactics will be different for each company, and that's going to impact how their spend breaks down. So the spend profile only tells a portion of the story. It's really important to understand how the marketing department operates, what their strategic plan is, and understand how we can support those activities.
So what's the rest of the story then? What makes marketing so very different from other categories?
Well, in marketing, there are a lot of intangibles that factor into decision making. Suppliers aren't bidding on a specification where all the products would be the same and can easily be compared to one another. There are a lot of other elements beyond proposed costs that would make a supplier better than the competition, and you can't put a dollar figure on how an agency understands the brand image of a company or the impact that their creative work may have. So this adds a layer of complexity to any sort of sourcing process that you wouldn't see in some of the other categories.
How does that complexity impact sourcing engagements? What, for example, distinguishes a marketing RFP?
Well, in marketing RFPs, you're looking to collect proposals that also include that creative work and can demonstrate that brand understanding that I mentioned before. And those can be a primary factor in any sort of decision making. So while you're still requesting pricing and qualitative information on company background, capabilities, account management, the key differentiators for an agency might come down to how they understand your brand or demonstrate their creative work. So you're not evaluating the same type of information as in other RFPs where you may be requesting that unit cost for a product or that's based on a spec.
And how does marketing typically perceive procurement? I would imagine issues like brand identity can lead to uncomfortable conversations.
So for marketing, the goal is to improve sales or revenue for their company, but it's not always easy to show the impact that their activities have on that bottom line revenue. So sometimes they are put in a position where they have to defend their budgets or their different spending activities. So In organizations where procurement might be viewed as cost cutters or budget slashers, marketing would be very resistant to working with them. So the perception of procurement within marketing has improved in recent years. The organizations that have had success in marketing procurement are those where the procurement group has made an effort to understand marketing. It's not just looking at budget figures and trying to find a way to minimize spending, but understanding the different supplier relationships in place and strategic value they may provide to the organization. Beyond that, the conversation changes from reducing spend to optimizing budgets and finding ways to extend their marketing dollars further.
And what else complicates that relationship between the two departments? Why might marketing be especially wary of procurement's influence?
In my experience, the biggest roadblock for a successful relationship between marketing and procurement is that they don't understand the other's goals and objectives. If marketing only views procurement as a tool to reduce costs, they'll never see the added value that they can bring to decision-making and supplier management. On the other hand, if procurement doesn't understand the strategic nature of marketing supplier relationships and how decisions are made, they will not be able to adapt their processes and work collaboratively with those marketing teams.
From the sound of it, many marketing units are hesitant to even engage with procurement. What are some strategies you've employed to initiate important conversations between the two?
One of the things that we focus on when engaging with marketing groups is using terminology that will resonate for them. So things like agency search as opposed to an agency RFP and agency of record to speak to the different supplier relationships. Also, talking about savings will only deter them from wanting to work with you, but changing the conversation to be more about optimizing budgets will help to ease the discussion. Making an effort to understand how they use their different suppliers and the strategic nature of those relationships will also help to benefit. By acknowledging that a supplier has a strategic position within the organization, it gives the stakeholder peace of mind that we understand that this is not just about deploying a campaign for the least amount of money as possible. We make an effort to emphasize that we want to work with them and not disrupt their operations.
If we're not talking in terms of savings, what are some of the other benefits that might appeal more directly to marketing's goals?
Well, in our role, we often are tasked with finding savings in marketing budgets. But from that perspective, we've helped our clients in identifying significant savings with their agency partners, in some cases just by improving the transparency into the pricing that they already have. But I think one of the biggest differences we can provide to our clients is by introducing them to different players in the market. As an outside perspective, especially as consultants, we find different agencies than the one the teams may be used to working with. These agencies can bring new and innovative ideas on how to tackle a different category or a vision for a brand.
It seems like misunderstandings are a common theme when procurement and marketing don't get along. How can procurement professionals work to familiarize themselves with the category?
My recommendation to procurement professionals would be to start reading different market intelligence and publications from both marketers as well as agencies so that you can start to familiarize yourself with the terminology and categories within the marketing space. Beyond that, working alongside the marketing team so that you can understand their strategies and decision-making processes so that you can find ways to better collaborate with them through the procurement process.
And one last question. What qualities must a procurement professional possess to succeed in engaging with marketing?
In order for a procurement professional to be successful in the marketing space, you need to understand that decision-making may not always come down to who scores the highest on a scorecard or who has the lowest cost proposal. Things like creative and strategic work, understanding of a company's brand, innovation, and just general cultural fit can be the determining factor in how a supplier is selected. As procurement professionals, our role is to help the marketing teams make their decisions by providing them with all the information necessary to do so.
Thank you so much, Meg.
You're welcome, Joan.
You've been listening to ISM 2018 Session Insights. Tune in next week to hear more from the procurement leaders at Source One. See you in Nashville.